What is going on, Miguel? I have got your Anakin Skywalker Attack of the Clones hilt all ready and installed for you. You had said that this was your first neopixel saber, I believe, so I wanted to make this video for you to go over everything and make sure you knew how to work the saber and that you know like all the functionality with it as well. So this is how the saber is going to come to you in this box. All right, so we're going to open this box up and you're going to see the saber right in here. Okay, so let's take the saber out. Quickly, just the general parts of your saber. You've got your blades emitter section. This is a blade plug, and I'll go over that in a second. The control box are going to be your activation and auxiliary buttons. Your activation button is going to be the second from the bottom, and your auxiliary button is going to be the second from the top right here. Okay. Then you've got your, your handle and your grip section, and then you've got your pommel in here. Okay. So now to get to your chassis, okay, first thing that you want to do is you want to remove the blade plug. This brass grub right here, okay, this brass grub is your blade retention screw, and that's going to be what holds your blade or your blade plug in place. So let's loosen that just a little bit, and then your blade plug will pop right out just like that, okay? Let's put that away. Now let's take your pommel and let's unscrew your pommel like that. It'll be counterclockwise, and you'll see your speaker in here, okay? And these are your neopixel connectors by Shadowfoil right here. So we're gonna just take your thumb lightly and push that till your chassis comes out and bring your chassis out. Now, in here, I've got your battery already in here, but when I ship it to you, your battery won't be in. So let's go ahead and take the battery out real quick. What you want to do is, now I put this little battery wrap on here. It's got some Arabesh on there, so it's kind of a little bit, makes it a bit cooler, I think. I enjoy these battery wraps. This is one of my favorite battery wraps because it's got different Arabic symbols in there for the power cell. Now, because I took the main battery wrap off, the battery doesn't tell you what side is positive and what side is negative. The nipple is always positive. The flat side is always negative, okay? Now, your saber has a spot here. Let's see if I can get the light to show that there is a positive and negative sign in the saber. It's just not really shown because of the shadow here, but there it is. So there's a positive and negative sign so that you always know, but just always know the best thing to remember is that nipple goes to nipple and flat side goes to flat side. In your saber, the positive will always go towards the speaker. You don't want to switch the battery, because if you switch the battery, that can short out the proffie board, and that's what you don't want to do. So take your battery, nipple to nipple, flat side to flat side, pop that in there. Now, in order to activate the saber, you're going to flip the kill switch. When the saber is activated, you're going to hear a sound and the lights are going to start up. If you flick this switch and nothing happens, just rotate the battery until it catches. So let's see.
I don't like sound.
All right, so that time it worked. So we didn't have to twist the battery. So here we've got your illuminated switches, okay? And then this is the PCB for the shine through on the saber on the red and green aerials. And then here are your Shadowfoil neopixel connectors. Now, like I said before, the bottom is going to be your activation and the top is going to be your auxiliary. So we hit the bottom and that activates the saber, okay? To turn off the saber, we're just going to hit that activation button again, and that's going to power it off. Now, next thing you're going to want to do is to get the chassis inside the saber itself. And so here's the best way that I think to do that. So your pommel's already off. Your control box here, you want to line up these buttons with your control box just well, right? Because these are where your buttons are. So the best thing that I would tell you to do is this part of your control box just comes right off just like that. And it's magnetic. And you can use this to make sure that your buttons are lined up properly, because each of these little switches you should be able to see in these holes right here. So let's take a look here And let's line this up as well as we can. And then we're just gonna slide it in. All right, slide that in. And I'm gonna push it all the way in. And I can see the tactile switches in there. So I know I'm lined up well. Also, a good sign is that the lights are flashing appropriately here and over there as well. We'll take our control box, drop that in. It's magnetic, so it's gonna pop in right there. And then your activation switch is this right here. So here is the Shadowfoil PCB all lit up. There's a lot of LEDs on that to give you a nice bright shine through even when you don't have a blade in. The sound is real good. This is one of the fonts you gave me to install on here, and I'll go through the rest of the fonts for you. You also get this cool shine through on the control box, and I think that's a really nice touch with the illuminated PCBs. And then to turn it off, we're going to hit that activation button again, and then that turns the saber off. All right, so next, let's get a blade in here, okay? So you're going to need to grab your neopixel blade, 7/8 inch diameter, and what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to put the blade in the blade emitter. You don't want to just jam it in there because you don't want to smash those pins. You want to push the blade in until you feel resistance, keep it steady, and then tighten your retention screw, this little brass knob right here. Tighten it until it's not too tight. You don't want to over crank it. Just tighten it until it feels secure. And then you're good to go. You hit your activation button and you've got your neopixel blade all lit up and ready to go, okay? The cool thing about proffie is that it's got smooth swing, so it picks up even the slightest variation in your hand, and it sounds really, really good with that speaker in there. All right, so you sent me 2 fonts that you purchased from Kyberphonic to install in this hilt. One was the Tusken Terminator, I believe, the Tusken Slayer from Kyberphonic, and then the Darth Vader from the Kenobi series. So let's go through those fonts real quick. Now, to change fonts, when the saber is off, you're going to hit the auxiliary button, which is this top button, second from the top, okay? Every time you switch fonts, you're going to hear a new sound play, and that's going to be the sound indicative of that font. So let's hit this activation button. So the Tusken Slayer font you sent me had 3 different versions. This is the second version. First one is what we were hearing the first time. And the hum is very distinctive on this. Okay. Now while the blade is on, you can hit the activation button for blaster bolts. Also clashing. So all right. Now you can also twist this off and swing it back on. Those are the gesture controls that you got. Let's try out your other fonts here.
I've got a bad feeling about this.
So I believe this is when Anakin is fighting in the droid factory. And we're going to twist it off. Your next font, I believe, is your Darth Vader font.
Where is he?
Here's you a nice red blade.
Skywalker.
So the rest of these fonts are stock fonts that you get free with any proffie board. And I gave you some different colored blades to go along with these. So here's your green. Here's a white blade for you.
Smooth Jedi.
There's a yellow blade.
Smooth gray.
Here's a purple blade.
Teensy.
And to let you know you've reached the end, you've got a rainbow blade. So when you get to this spot, you know that when you get to your next font, you're starting all over again. So let's turn it off with a twist. And we're going to hit the auxiliary button one more time.
I'm Anakin Skywalker.
And we're back to the Tusken Slayer font in Kyberphonic. All right, so now when you're done messing with your saber and you want to turn it off, we'll hit this activation button to shut it down. First thing you want to do is unscrew your retention screw just a little bit to loosen out your blade. Take your blade out. Unscrew your pommel. And ever so slightly use your thumb to just push that chassis out. Slide the chassis out and flick that kill switch off. And then your saber is actually now turned off. If you're not going to be messing with your saber for a while, take the battery out. Otherwise, you can leave the battery in until you need to charge it again. And that's pretty much your hilt, man. This was a really, really fun hilt to build. This chassis is real fun, especially these neopixel tactile switches. These were pretty fun to do. If you ever get into programming your own proffie board, I did leave a copy of the config file on the SD card. So let's actually go over this real quick. Here is your proffie board right here. This is your proffie V3. Right now it's sitting in the chassis pretty well, but it's just a little wiggly. So I'm actually going to be putting a little bit of electrical heat tape right over here just to keep it secure. If you ever need to get to the chassis, first thing that I would recommend that you do, if you ever need to get to the board to mess with that, I wouldn't recommend it unless you have to. But first off, turn it off so that you're not running power to the board. And this will, your proffie board itself will just kind of slide back. Just use your thumbs, press it back, and then you can wedge the board out of here. But if you're not going to be programming it anytime soon, just leave it be like this. I'm going to have a little bit of, like I said, heat tape put over here just to keep it secure in the chassis for you, okay? And if you ever need to, get to the board, you can just remove the tape, but just put the tape back on, and then you'll be good to go. So Miguel, like I said, this was a real fun build. I hope you enjoy this saber and have a really good time with it. Thank you for trusting me with building your saber. And as always, may the Force be with you.